Clemson passing its first test of the season with a win on the road on the Plains, 19-13 over Auburn. We bring in Ryan and Kantor from Shaking the Southland to help us break it down. Ryan, for Clemson fans and for people across the country unaware of Auburn's defense, maybe not an impressive showing by the offense, but that's certainly understandable. But the Clemson defense was up to the task all night.
Yeah, Clemson's offense struggled a bit, but the defense really picked up the slack. We saw early in the year last season, Clemson's offense took a little while to kind of find its groove, and the defense picked up the slack for the early part of last season, most notably in the Louisville game last year. We expected it to be kind of the opposite this year, but that's not the case. Fortunately, the defense played a phenomenal game. Of course, to be fair, this was aided by Auburn's strange three-man quarterback rotation. There were a couple of situations, two in particular. They had John Franklin III running the read option very well. They pulled him, put Jeremy Johnson in on a crucial drive. 2 plays later, he throws an interception when the guy was wide open. Later on in the game, Sean White's in the game. He's playing well. They're driving down the field. They pull him, put Jeremy Johnson in on a 4th and short, totally telegraph the quarterback run. It gets stuffed. So those type of decisions definitely help Clemson. But nevertheless, you go on the road, hold the home team to 262 yards, 13 points. It was a very impressive defensive performance. Secondary, which was completely gutted, looked very good.
Yeah, the Auburn rushing attack, 41 attempts for 87 yards. That definitely gets the job done at just about 2.1 yards per carry. That, of course, includes sack yardage. But, yeah, Auburn not knowing what it's doing on offense at the quarterback position, it's kind of strange. Sean White is the best pocket passer, probably is the best grasp of the offense. John Franklin III is the option guy, the mobile guy, the running threat. Jeremy Johnson, something in a Cardell Jones mode where he's got the NFL body and the rocket arm, but doesn't necessarily know what he's doing out there at this point. So in regards to any particular players that really stand out in this night, defensively, offensively, with Mike Williams coming back, your thoughts about those performances?
Yeah, so Jadar Johnson, he had a pass interference call go against him, which was the right call earlier in the game. But towards the end of the game, he really had some huge plays. At one point, he had an interception. I believe it was the one when Jeremy Johnson came in for Franklin that I referenced earlier. But at the end of the game, Clemson kind of had some weird play calls, gave Auburn a chance. And on 2 Hail Marys, they were both pretty well-thrown balls, and Auburn really had a chance. Jadar Johnson was there on both of them. In one case, there was 2 Auburn players there and only him, and he tipped it away. And then the last play of the game, the ball was bouncing in the air, and he slapped it right down. Very heady play, very athletic play, just very huge plays for Jadar Johnson that's coming in for T.J. Green and Jaron Kearse, who've gone to the NFL. So huge kudos to him. It's a relief to see a good safety play after losing so many guys. And then, yeah, you mentioned Mike Williams. The offense struggled. Auburn's D-line is really elite. We talked about that heading into the game. Clemson's O-line struggled a little bit in run blocking, but their pass blocking was sufficient, and it was sufficient enough that Deshaun Watson was able to hit Mike Williams again and again. Clemson's receivers really weren't all that open. There weren't big windows, and in many of these cases with Mike Williams, there was no window at all, and Watson just threw it at his back shoulder, and he just won the ball every time. He had 9 receptions, 174 yards. His first game back from a pretty serious neck injury he suffered in the opener last season. It was unbelievable to see how good he is coming back from that injury, and you kind of forget how huge of an impact he makes, and immediately – one of the top 2 receivers in the ACC and among the very best in the whole country.
I had the same thought, Ryan, because of the success of the team and that being a complete year ago, that people forget that Clemson was missing that from the offense. We've had those discussions during the offseason, just stretching the field like only Mike Williams can do on this team. For the rest of the receiving core, only 74 yards receiving, and nobody averaged more than 10 yards per catch, and that includes Artavis Scott, of course, one of the best in the ACC as well, with over 90 catches last year. So Clemson wins. They win against a unstable team because of the quarterback position, but a very talented team. So an impressive win in some regards, but at the same time, maybe some concerns you can take from this one.
Yeah, not going to complain about going on the road and beating Auburn, but we didn't play our best game. A couple of weird occurrences that happened. Jordan Leggett had a pretty bad game. He had no catches. He had a drop. He had a false start. We had to burn a timeout because he was he didn't know where to go on the play. Late in the game, you saw Garrett Williams in on some big plays. Jordan Leggett just had a really bad night, and hopefully he bounces back because he could be a huge part of this offense to really attack linebackers. He's super athletic, so hopefully that's an anomaly. The thing that was the most peculiar might have been the final 51 seconds of the game, and in particular the last two plays Clemson had on offense. 51 seconds left, it's third down. Auburn has no timeouts. Clemson could really just kneel the ball and really just run it up the gut or kneel the ball, and Auburn would have 10, 15, 16 or so seconds left to try some ridiculous Hail Marys. They do a simple handoff to Gallman. He jumps outside, runs out of bounds with 45 seconds remaining, and really puts Clemson in a tough situation where they can't just burn out clock and let there be just a few seconds for one or two Hughes to go. Then Dabo compounds the error and decides not to kick the field goal. I assume that wasn't his plan from the start, and he didn't adjust to the big mistake by Gallman. So they run it up the middle. Clock stops on the turnover of downs, and then all of a sudden Auburn's got the ball with 40 seconds. They move down the field against prevent defense. They get two great shots in the end zone, and it was very close to losing. Thank God for Jadar Johnson, two great plays. That could have gone really bad.
This seems to factor into coaching strategy, I think, a little bit too often, where it's mentioned in these like situations near the end of a game where the coaches are afraid to attempt the field goal because if it gets blocked, it gets returned all the way for a touchdown. How many times do we see that? And I know it stands out in our minds, so maybe more often we think it could happen versus a team driving the length of the field in the last 50 seconds to win a game with its offense. That happens far more than blowing a special teams play, kicking a field goal, especially if you're capable in special teams.
I completely agree. That's the exact calculation that they should have been making. Either they have very, very little confidence in the field goal unit, and there was a high snap earlier, so maybe they were scared, and that's a really big problem. Or maybe Dabo just made an incorrect calculation there, which hopefully is the case.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, Florida State, that's an anomaly. That's one of the reasons why it's so exciting. All right, Troy, South Carolina State the next 2 weeks, and then the ACC opener on a Thursday night on national television. You'd obviously love to see some of those things get cleaned up before you see Georgia Tech and the ACC.
Yes, a lot softer defenses until we get to Louisville. Georgia Tech really had a pillow fight with Boston College over in Ireland. Despite winning, they did not look good. So I think this is going to be the year they finally break through. They haven't won in Bobby Dodd in Atlanta since 2013. So I'd really like to see the offense be as electric as we expect. And this is a couple weeks for the defense to continue to round into form. And we'll find out if they're as good as they looked or if Auburn's offense is just not very good.
But considering what happened to two other top five teams on neutral/road sites, LSU and also Oklahoma, Clemson survives against a talented team, 19-13. Ryan Kantor from Shaking the Southland breaking it down for us. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.